tengah pacar. I think Parliament is going to be dissolved next week. It can happen from as early as Monday, but definitely next week. After which, usually it takes about 10 days for nomination, and going by last election's record, it will take another 10 days before voting. So all in all, we are looking at voting day in between 30th April to about 6th of May. I know that there's a lot of hoo-ha in Parliament. My advice is, unless you are in Bangsa or in your Lembah Pantai, when you go out to the kampungs or to the semi-urban area or even to the rural poor in Kerinci, not to spend too much time talking about the redelineation, because generally the public don't care. As far as they are concerned, is food on the table, their rice bowls. We are crunching the numbers. I've completed 7 out of the 14 states. You know, some states were not affected at all. Perlis is hardly affected. Terengganu, Sabah, Sarawak, not at all affected. So far, I've done Perak, I've done Kedah, I've done Perlis, I've done Penang, I've done Selangor and Negeri Sembilan. As expected, there is major shift here and there, but it's not a game changer as far as Najib's chance to remain in Putrajaya is concerned. I mean, he is going out with or without redelineation. I know a lot of people will not believe that. You know, a lot of people will not believe it because we've been told years and years that every time there is a redelineation, that signals the end of any hope for a change in government. But there have been a lot of changes undetected, mostly by everyone, unless you follow the numbers very closely month after month. Number one, there has been a steady shift in Malay votes. I wouldn't call it tsunami, because it depends on how you define tsunami. But the shift is significant enough to enable Pakatan Rakyat to win marginal, Pakatan Harapan, to win marginal seats which previously we failed to capture. And the reason being is a three-corner fight basically dilutes Malay votes. People, especially UMNO or PAS, don't like when I keep pointing out that a three-corner fight dilutes Malay votes, and it makes majority of the mixed areas become very competitive to Pakatan Harapan, because take Lembah Pantai for example, it is about 60-40 seats, 60% Malays, 40% non-Malays. Even when they bring the 7,000 postal votes, early voters from Bukit Aman into Lembah Pantai, the Chinese and Indian form a 40% block. I think it's Chinese is about 31% of Lembah Pantai. Close to 85%, if not more, will vote for Pakatan Harapan in this general election. In Lembah Pantai, the Chinese support for Pakatan Harapan most probably will reach yet another 85%. So as much as UMNO has always had their fixed deposits in the past, it's going to be the same with Pakatan in urban and mixed areas, because even on the day of nomination, even without much campaigning, I hope, people in Lembah Pantai would readily, about 85% of 30% Chinese voters, that comes to about 26%. 26% of voters in Lembah Pantai would have taken side at the beginning of the nomination day with Pakatan Harapan. In a three-corner fight, you need to get at least 38% and above to win. So whoever who stands here for Pakatan Harapan has to find additional 12% votes from Malays in order to win. The 60% of Malays in Lembah Pantai will be split 3 ways. Think about it, huh? Even if UMNO retains 60% of Malays in Lembah Pantai, they only have about 36%. There's another 24% to be split between PAS and Pakatan Harapan. Now, hypothetically, if nothing has changed over the years, over the last 3 or 4 years, that Malay votes remain 60% with UMNO, 20% with Pakatan, and 20% with PAS. 20% of 60% is 12. 12 plus 26% that Pakatan candidates readily gets from the non-Malays, it will easily bring a Pakatan candidate in Lembah Pantai to 38%. 26 plus 2. Meaning, even without doing anything, in spite of everything that BN had done, because of the split in the Malay votes, it will make Lembah Pantai extremely competitive, and the advantage still remains with Pakatan Harapan because this is an urban center. Malays in urban centers are more affected by bread and butter issues, by rising cost of living. They understand more about 1MDB and corruption, and the demand for governance has a lot more resonance in Lembah Pantai than say in Merbok Kedah. That's why when you take all this into account, anyone who says that a redelineation will hand over Putrajaya to Najib easily, you should go and slap them. Because it's not helping now. I mean, I am usually quite critical of my own friends and colleagues, because unless you have done your numbers and gone through every single one, be very careful about raising the alarm bells, because we are in a society who fears change, and even as our campaign picks up now, it is very easy to deflate that momentum if we tell the public it's hopeless. What more when we know it is not hopeless? I just mentioned to you how even if Pakatan Harapan didn't do anything, even if the dynamics of the Malay votes do not change at all, at the beginning of the nomination day, it is already neck and neck between Pakatan and UMNO, simply because three-corner fights dilutes Malay votes. But you and I know, for the last 3 years, so much has happened that the shift of Malay voters is not just incremental, it's significant enough to help us win Putrajaya. We've set up in Book 2.5 years ago because I don't want to listen to hypotheses without data. People refer to the result of the last general election and predict how this election is going to be. It's extremely different. In the last general election, we were up against Mahathir. This time Mahathir is on our side. That in itself is a big change. In the last general election, there wasn't any GST. Nowadays, apart from Rosma, GST is our best weapon and friends to win Putrajaya. All these have changed a lot, and the biggest victim to all the economic mismanagement of Najib for the last 6-7 years are definitely the Malays. Because most of the B40 are Malays. Most of the urban poor are Malays, apart from some Indians in some concentrated areas. Most people whose have not increased over the years are Malays. And therefore, because of all these factors, when you combine it together, more and more Malays understand it is not about the racial and religious divide anymore. It is about the rice bowl on the table every night. And that makes them gravitate towards Pakatan. The only problem is this: for seats like Lembah Pantai, we are up against an extremely rich competitor. Raja Nongchik has spent so much money. I can tell to the crowd tonight and to the machineries that compared to all the other seats in wilayah persekutuan except Putrajaya, Lembah Pantai, time and time again, continuously when we do the monthly polling, Lembah Pantai has shown a much higher above average support for UMNO. That we have to admit. Part of it is because we are up against an extremely rich politician who has limitless amount of money for him to spend on every poor man's house. I was told that even if ada orang batuk, there's someone in batuk dekat Kerinci, his guy will appear in front of the house within days. Yeah, that's because he has money. And he can pay people, and he can afford to give 500 ringgit when someone coughs in Lembah Pantai. Unfortunately, the guys in Bangsa don't do enough. You should try to get a lot more money from him. When you are up against a candidate like this, you have to take into account the local dynamics of it. As much as in urban areas, anywhere else, Malay votes for Pakatan is actually higher than Malay votes for UMNO, and that's generally true for Selangor and wilayah persekutuan. Unfortunately, it's not true for Lembah Pantai, and I have to say that. Therefore, whatever happens in a month's time from now, Lembah Pantai will remain, despite the three-corner fight, it will remain to be an extremely close contest. Every single vote counts, and when every single vote counts, it means that the probability of cheating is a lot higher, if not the highest, in Lembah Pantai. It also means that every single non-Malay vote counts. There cannot be an attitude that just because, understandably some people might not be happy with some developments in Pakatan Harapan, the choice of the Prime Minister, with the direction that it takes strategically. I can understand that. We all have our opinions about it. But do not lose the big picture to the point that you feel your one vote is not valuable enough to decide an election. Every single vote in Lembah Pantai, especially from the block vote of the non-Malays, count. And therefore tonight, unlike all the other fundraising dinners for all the other campaigns I've been almost every night nowadays, as much as the mood is upbeat, as much as we know it is not impossible to win, we also have to be mindful it is going to be a great challenge. In all my readings, we can win Lembah Pantai. In all my readings. I'm going to Lembah Pantai this Sunday night myself for a ceramah. It's just that unlike other seats in wilayah, it's not a walk in the park, and we are up against a serious man with serious amount of money to win this general election. So what do you need to do? Call every single friend to ask them to come back. There's no more guessing game. The voting day most probably is in between 30th April to 6th of May. Call every single friend, get them to become a pacha. Go for training now, and I ask you to register into the system, because I think we have overtaken most of the responsibility for Pacha, for Pakatan Harapan all over the country, I cannot allocate Pacha manually. It has to be done by the system. So you have to be a part of the system so that the system go through your profile and understand where you are voting, which polling station, so that it can readily allocate you to the nearest polling station. Go to the system because all the notes and videos and training materials are on the system. Unlike the previous general elections where we hardly have enough materials to train, only in good seats like Lembah Pantai that people are more prepared compared to other constituencies. Everyone now have the same access to the same thorough materials about polling and counting agents. We have 4 weeks. If we do that, I think we will win. And it's very important, especially for the machinery and the candidate to understand, this election is not won by big ceramah. Do not focus on a big ceramah, because when you do big rally, it is the people like you who will come and you will vote for BN, not for BN, for Pakatan anyway. I'm just testing you guys. It's been long day, long week, long shouting. Rallies is good for the morale of the campaign, but it's actually very bad for marginal seats. I've been telling this to my colleagues so many times. Rallies is bad for marginal campaign because the one who get excited, the ones who get so worked up, the ones who are all fired up are our own people. They got fired up 2 days before the election. The last day before voting, they got so tired. On the very morning, they are supposed to turn up for their polling agent duty. They overslept. We all know that. We've seen that before. More importantly, fancy turns and swing voters do not like noise. Malays especially do not like on-the-face campaign. It has to be very subtle. You have to show that you actually really want their votes. So the candidates, the helpers, the machineries who want to secure another win for Lembah Pantai has to go and knock as many doors. It's all about knocking doors. If you have 3 weeks from the dissolution, try to knock as many doors as possible. Do not be condescending and ask them, why do you not want to change? You are poor. You certainly will lose their votes. Everyone deserves a choice, even if that choice means Rosmah. That's the privilege of a voter. If they choose to vote for Rosmah, it's their choice and they'll pay the price later. It is for them to pay the price. It is not for us to lecture them about how you wasted your votes. These are the common mistakes made by our campaigners in the most marginal seats. It's like selling a product. Even if we feel that our product is better, you have to back because customers is always right. Voters is always right. If we have 4 weeks from now and the voting day, and our machineries and our helpers and our volunteers are tuned and trained to know that we have to knock doors, we have a proper script, and we have to persuade as many people as possible, and we have to mark those we have to bring out on that day, then I think on the very day of the voting, I don't think Lembah Pantai should be a big problem. So you have your work cut out for you. I have my work. I have to look after another 47 constituencies. I think Lembah Pantai is in safe hands. I'll come every now and then. But the real battle is going to be in Johor. The real battle is going to be in Kedah, in Negeri Sembilan, and surprisingly in places like Perlis and Melaka. Perak has always had battles. But I think if they were surprises that brings us to Putrajaya this time, it will come from Negeri Sembilan, Malacca, of course from Johor and Kedah. As it is today, I can share with you some numbers because we do daily polling and we complete one state per day. The level of support for Pakatan among Malays in Perlis is the same as the level of support of Malays in Penang for Pakatan is the same with the level of support for Pakatan among the Malays in Johor. People can understand Penang, people can understand Johor, but I think it's a big surprise in Perlis. Perlis is the most rural and economically deprived state, one that has always been in the hands of a firm grip of Barisan Nasional, and never in our history that opposition wins more than 3 state seats in Perlis. Never in our history that opposition ever won a parliamentary seat. I go to Perlis every month nowadays. Part of it is because the level of support for Pakatan among the Malays in Perlis is the same with the level of support among the Penang Malays. Despite the fact that Penang has a government and Perlis doesn't have a government. That level of support is the same in Johor. The good story is this. The Malay swing is almost across the board except in Kelantan and Terengganu. The reason is quite straightforward. In Kelantan and Terengganu, PAS has been the de facto opposition for almost 60 years. When PAS took a position that is quite friendly to UMNO, the public will take a long time to get used to Pakatan, and Pakatan is traditionally a weak third party in Kelantan and Terengganu. But from Perlis all the way to Kedah, especially to Penang, somewhat in Perak, in Selangor, in Wilayah, in Negeri Sembilan, in Melaka, in Johor, in the urban centres of Pahang, we will see most probably UMNO and Pakatan Malay votes to be neck and neck. It could be 40-40, 20 for PAS. In some states like Selangor and Kedah, in fact Pakatan is ahead of UMNO by about 5 percentage points. That's why for those who worry very much about the redelineation in Selangor, you can go back and sleep, not to worry. Tony Pua asked me 2 days ago, he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Well, I can only base it on the numbers." And that's what the numbers show. And those who are familiar with statistics, with surveys, with, the statistical methods of doing this, there's a margin of error. The margin of error is between 1.5% to 3%. If our sampling is representative enough, at most it is off by about 2 to 3%, which is not far off. And most Malaysians forget one thing. The battle for Putrajaya, actually, in my opinion, all this while, is never decided by the Sabah and Sarawak. It's not decided by Felda. It's actually decided by the 90 mid-seats in Semenanjung. It is 90 parliamentary seats which consist of mixed voters that have the possibility of swinging from one party to another, because all the other parties, all the other seats in Sabah, Sarawak, in Felda areas, in Penang, in the urban centres of KL, these are seats which have been engineered to go to a particular party. In Sabah and Sarawak, it's extremely very difficult to win one parliamentary seats unless those seats are either urban seats or those seats are rural Christian seats. like in Sabah. But there are not many of them. There's only Penampang, there's only Keningau, there's only Pensiangan, there's only Kota Marudu. There's only 4 such, and Ranau, sorry. There's only 5 such Christian-dominated seats in Sabah. Even then, BN has been winning these seats for the last 2 or 3 elections by putting multiple fights. So it is us against Barisan, against 7 other candidates. So each candidate takes about 200-300 votes because they pay, and it's very difficult. So at most, even if there is some swing because of warisan, I do not see Sabah and Sarawak to go beyond 15 parliament. Out of 165 parliamentary constituencies in Semenanjung, 35 seats are the non-Malay Chinese Indian majority seats, which will always go to the AP, at least in the current situation. I know Liu Tiong Lai, Wee Ka Siong, Gerakan feel that there has been a steady stream of Chinese voters back to MCA or Gerakan. I think they are in La La Land. I told them jokingly, the problem of MCA and Gerakan especially, because they spend so long learning and taking orders from UMNO, they have inherited UMNO's inability to count. They can't count, just like UMNO cannot count. You know, when 2 or 3 people come back to them, they count it as 3,000 people. There is no indication whatsoever that Chinese, or especially Chinese or Indians, have gone back in big droves to SPN. Therefore, the 35 super Chinese Indian majority seats in Semenanjung, by design and default, will always go to the APN Pakatan. Likewise, the 40 Malay super majority seats, by default, will go to UMNO, more so in 3 corner fights. These are the seats which has a lot of Felda settlements. These are seats like Pengarang, Kota Tinggi, Tenggara, Rompin, Jelantun, Pekan, Mersing, what else? Not Semrong, no? Not Semrong, yeah. Is it not many, but there are about 40 seats which has 90 and above Malay majority. Those seats that I mentioned just now are seats with huge Felda settlements, including Hulu Terengganu, Kemaman, Dungun, and Setiu, and Kuala Nerus in Terengganu. These are all seats designed for that. So it goes without saying that it will go to UMNO, especially in 3 corner fights, because even when there was a straight fight between Pakatan Rakyat and BN for the donkey years before, we couldn't win, because these are the rural super majority Malay seats. There's about 40 of them. Therefore, the real battle actually boils down to the 90 mixed voters majority seats in Semenanjung. Almost all the seats in that PKR contested in wilayah Bandar Tun Razak, Lembah Pantai, Wangsa Waju, Setiawangsa, who's that? And Batu, yes, and Batu. These are all mixed majority seats. Malays are about 50, at most 60%. The rest are non-Malays. Even in Selangor, only Sabak Bernam has more than 85% Malays. There's no other seats in Selangor with higher than 85% Malay voters apart from Sabak Bernam. Pandan is 50-50. Gombak is 78-22. 78-22. Ampang is 65-35. Selayang is 45-55. Kelana Jaya is 45-55. Kapar, well, used to be 51-49, now it's 66-34. Shah Alam is a 72-28 seats. When you start going one by one, out of 22 parliamentary seats in Selangor, only one is more or less a super majority Malay seats. The rest are all mixed majority seats. In three corner fights, as I have explained about Lembah Pantai, Pakatan has an advantage over BN because when Malay votes are split three ways, Malay votes stop becoming the largest voting bloc. Malay votes become, when I say Malay votes, I mean UMNO's Malay votes, become as large as the next Chinese votes. It's about 27%, and therefore it evens out the competition between Pakatan and Barisan because it neutralized the effect of overwhelmingly pro-Barisan from among the Malay voters. So these 96, based on all readings, based on all indications so far, the majority of these 96 in Semenanjung will actually go to Pakatan Harapan. So far in Wilayah Persekutuan, only Putrajaya will remain with Kunan. I really love the day when he's no longer the minister, we can strip him down in Parliament because he's the only MP from Wilayah Persekutuan, from the end. In Selangor, only about 3 or 4 seats which are marginal, and even then they are quite winnable. Kuala Selangor, Tanjung Karang, Sabak Bernam, Sungai Besar are actually quite winnable, given that in Selangor, the Malay votes between Pakatan and UMNO are quite neck and neck, and the Chinese and Indians are overwhelmingly for Pakatan. Okay, I can go on and on and on and on. You feel that this is either MLM, or you think that this is a math statistic lecture. Let me just cut it short. Khalid Samad is here, he can take over. I need to go home and see my son. Let me put it this way. Do I know whether we will definitely win? I don't. Is this election a lot better than previous election? Yes and no. I've been at the forefront of planning for Pakatan's election since the last one and even since the previous one. When journalists ask me how do you rate this election compared to GE13, yes and no. In terms of the readiness of the public, of the people to change, this election is far better than GE13. In GE13, it's only the urban crowd like you guys who are so overconfident of winning. When I move into kampungs, when I go into Malay constituencies outside Klang Valley, I could feel the piercing eyes. I could feel that they want to slap me. The Malays wanted to slap me. I could feel the anger that why do you sell out to the DAP? Then. It's their right to feel like that. You can't blame them. They are voters. In the same way that you feel like slapping Rosmah, it's their right to feel. Nowadays, sometimes the reception that we get from Malays outside Klang Valley is even better than the reception we get from the non-Malays. There is no data or statistic that I can provide this, but I can provide anecdotal evidence. Sometimes it's the qualitative analysis when looked together with the quantitative that convince me that this election is much better election than the previous one. Because as I travel from Malays down to Johor, every week I have to stop to the loo, to Gens, you know. Previously, as I said, either they want to punch you, or either you feel like, maybe I don't pee here because it's not coming out. Because it's not conducive. Nowadays, I still cannot pee, I still cannot do my business in toilets at the R&R, but it's different. It is not because I feel that people are not happy with my presence. It is because they want to take selfies in toilets. Which is a lot more dangerous because I come from boarding school. The kind of people who wants to take selfie, not the toilet cubicles, I mean in the gens, you know. The kind of people who wants to take selfie are usually the cleaners, people who clean the toilets, you know, people who sweep the floor, and these are usually the kind of voters who normally stay away from us. These are people who used to be, in my opinion, the bedrock of UMNO support all these years. The fact that they come, they take photos, and they want to chat, and they follow what we say on the YouTube, on Facebook, means our messages has gone to them, and they understand why we need to change government as much as the people in the urban centers understand. For the first time ever, I think, in all my years planning for election, there is a communion large enough between the Chinese, the Indian and Malay voters who subscribe to this idea, perhaps a change of government is good for everyone. And that's the nicest news. Because we spent years and years trying to convince them. I think it's not opposition who did the job. It's not Anwar, it's not Tun Mahathir, it's none of us. The one person, the one thing that did the job is GST. Well, of course, Rosmah helps a bit. But it's the GST. Unfortunately, there's a downside to it. When I say this, it's yes and no. The slight concern is this: the energy of the campaign, the number of volunteers and machineries, campaigners running on the ground, the number of people knocking doors, putting on flags, the number of people going around giving leaflets is a lot less now compared to the last general election. Anywhere we go, it is quite obvious that Pakatan's machinery is not even starting that well yet, and that concerns me. And of course, you know, I've been talking and shouting about Pacha. Part of it is because if we want to win, we have to stop electoral fraud, and for that to happen, we need as many people, as many party workers, as many volunteers to go train and start getting involved in the campaign, which frankly speaking is a lot colder than what it was about the same time in the last general election. So let me conclude. We need you to go out there, run, get as many people as possible, inject the optimism, inject the energy, increase the momentum, knock as many doors, wave as many flags, because it is out of urban centers that the energy of the campaign for change will spread around the country. It has to start from here. When we do it in Lembah Pantai, when we do it in Setiawangsa, when Kuala Lumpur and Klang Valley show the confidence that Pakatan Pakatan will win, and we show that by being on the ground, by canvassing, by calling people, by preparing to become a pacha, then that optimism and belief in change will spread across the country. And we don't have time. We only have about 4 weeks from now, so we need everyone to stop at 11 o'clock, eat whatever you need to eat, go back and sleep, and tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday start knocking doors. Can you do that? No more people in the urban center come to dinner and you think you've done your part. You have done your part, but it's not enough. We need you to knock doors. We need you to become campaigners. We need you to start doing a bit more than what you have done before. That will help the Pantai, that will help Wilayah, and that will help win the 90 marginal seats in the whole country. And you guys can see them in Putrajaya. I will wait at Putrajaya because I will pick up Rosmah and Najib from Putrajaya. Thank you very much. Have a nice night. Good luck, Lembah Pantai, and I hope you have a much better campaign. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.